कार्विक गिरिधारी शिष्य राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जाय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरन मोहन जू की जाय। नित्यानंद प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अशुत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्रील गुरुदेव की जाय। नित्यानंद प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अशुत्तर शत शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अशुतर शिशिमार भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अशुतर शिशिमार भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपार अशुतर शिशिमार भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्रील गोरक्षदास बाबाजी महाराज की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्ट श्रील सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्रील जगन्नाथ दास बाबाजी महाराज की जाय। श्री रूपानुकोर्य गुरु वर्ग की जाय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ जय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद श्रील भक्ति विज्ञान भारती गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद श्रील भक्ति बल्लभ तीर्थ गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद श्रीमद भक्ति दायित माधव गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद श्रील भक्ति प्रमोद पुरी गोसाई महाराज की जय। नित्याल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद श्रीमद भक्ति रक्षक श्रीधर गोसाई महाराज की जय। All the associates of Jagat Guru Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Shri Rupa, Jai Śrīla Baladevi Vibhushan Prabhu ki jai. Śrīla Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Shri Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Trai ki jai. Śrīla Krishnadas Kaviraj Gosai Par ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadas Raghunath Shard Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल कोरमंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदत्त गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंग देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। जय श्री The first day of Satya Yuga ki jai. Shri Jagannath Devir Chandan Yatra ki jai. The opening of the doors of the Shri Badri Narayan Temple ki jai. Shri Gauri Vedanta Samiti Stapan Divas ki jai. This is the day Gauri Vedanta Samiti was inaugurated in 1941. Jai Shri Parashuram Jayanti ki jai. The appearance day of Parashuram ki jai. Jai Shri Akṣaya Tṛtīyā Tithi ki jai. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Shri Chaitanya Śikṣāṣṭaka ki jai. Jai, the Sanmodana-bhāṣya of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura ki jai. The vritti of Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki jai. All the commentaries of our associates ki, of our Guru Varga ki jai on Śikṣāṣṭaka. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shinitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Okay, we'll do the Mangala Charan and then begin. 1 second. Ajnanatimirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Guruve namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Tividito Kodiya Gurvanvaye Bhato Bhanuriva Prabhata Gagane Yogora Sankirtanaya Maya Varati Mingilo Daragatan Udrita Jivaniman Krishna Prema Sudabdikahana Sukhang Pradat Prabhung Tang Bhaje Vande Bhakti Vinodang Shri Gaura Shakti Swarupakam Bhakti Shastra Samrajang Radha Rasa Sudha Nidhim. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhav Sai Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva cha पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः वृषभानुसुतान् वितवामतनुं यमुनातटनागरनन्दसुतं मुरलीकलगीतविनोरपरं भज गोद्रुमकानन कुञ्जविदुं स्मर गौरगदाधर Kelikalam Bhava Gaura Gadadhara Pakshachara Shrinu Gaura Gadadhara Charu Kathang Bhaja Godruma Kanana Kunja Vidum Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Itti Vigyaya Devi Tvang Nayamang Charanantikam. Oh, bhaktya vihina aparada lakshaya kshiptashtakamaditaranga madhye kripa tvam sharanam prapanna vrinde namaste charanaravindam bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Goswami Maharaj, one of the last verses of Prem Dham Deva Stotra, he says, Shri Saruparaya Sangha Harsha Shesha Ghoshanam Shikshanashtakakhya Krishna Kirtanaika Poshanam Prema Nama Matra Vishwa Jivanaika Sambharam Prema Dama Devameva Nomi Gaura Sundaram. प्रेमोद्भावितहर्षैर्योद् वेगदन्यार्तिमिश्रितं लपितं कुरुचन्द्रस्य भाग्यवर्भिर्निषेव्यते प्रभुर्शिक्षाष्टक श्लोक जय पुरे शुने कृष्ण प्रेम भक्ति तार बारे dine dine. Whoever reads or hears the Lord's Shikshashtak verses, that person's prem bhakti for Krishna increases day by day. Jai Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka ki jai. Jai Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki jai. All right, Dandavat pranams. Let's see who is there. Nri Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Sarveshwari Mataji, Simran Didi, Archana Mataji, Guru Nishta Prabhu, Nitai Mukeshji, Anadi Krishna Prabhu, Ganga Mataji, Gargraj ji, Vidyalala se Didi, Sarveshwari, Raseshwari Mataji, Indira Mataji, and Mahi Bharata Prabhu. Dandavat pranams Prabhu. Haribol. And I see there are other devotees there. If you write a comment, I'll see your name. Also, pranams to all the devotees watching in the future, like Jaidev Prabhu. Haribol. So we are continuing on with our reading of Shri Chaitanya Shikshashtak, the commentary of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura and Śrīla Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada and my Gurudev. And yeah, also we'll be reading some selected verses from Bhajan Rahasya and Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's song for each verse, and so on. Also, I have a bunch of other I have not a bunch, some other commentaries from our acharyas, like Srila Sridhar Goswami Maharaj, some things from Srila Bhaktivinoda Puri Goswami Maharaj, like that. So we'll also read that. All right, so okay, first we will recite this. I think from tomorrow onwards, I'm not going to sing this all every day, but I want to do it today because today is Akṣaya Tṛtīyā, and so I think it'd be an auspicious day to recite this all. Oh, and at the end of the program, I will find things to read about Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. I haven't actually had a chance to look. If anybody has anything for Akṣaya Tṛtīyā that's very nice about Parshuram or anything like that, you can share with me. Let's see, is there anything on my... Oh, there's something here on purebhakti.com and something on Vishuddha Chaitanya Vani. So, okay, we have something already. But if there's anything else, then you can let me know. All right. Let me make this big. Oh, Harshe Prabhu Kohen Shuno Saru Pramarai Nama Sankirtana Kalo Parama Upai Sankirtana Jage Kalo Krishna Yaradhan Sheto Sumedha Pai Krishner Charan Krishna Varnam Tisa Krishnam Sangopangastra Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti hi Sumedasa Nama Sankirtane hoy Sarva Nartanasha Sarva Shubhadoy Krishne Premera Ulasa Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratiparam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Sankirtana hoite papa sangsara nashan Chitta Shuddhi Sarva Bhakti Sadhana Urgam Krishna Premurgam Premamrita Ashvadana Krishna Prapti Sevamrita Samudre Majan Uthila Visharadanya Pore Apan Shloka Jahan Artha Shuni Sab Jai Dukha Shok Nam Namakari Bahuda Nirja Sarva Shaktis Tatrarpita Niyamita Smaranena Kala Etadrishi Tava Kripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaivam Idrishami Hajani Nanuraga Hayane Kalokera Vancha Aneka Prakar Kripate Korilo Anek Namer Prachar Kaite Shuite Jatha Tata Namaloy Kala Desha Niyam Nahi Sarva Siddhi Hoy Sarva Shakti Name Dila Koriya Vibhag Amara Durdaiva Name Nahi Anurag O ya Amar Durdaiva Name Nahi Anurag Je Rupe Loile Nam Prema Upajay Tar Lakshan Shloka Shuno Swarup Ramarai Trinarapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada Hari Uttam Hoya Apana Ke Mane Trinatham Dui Prakare Sahishnuta Kore Vriksha Sama Vriksha Jeno Katileho Kichu Na Bolai Shukaya Maila অশুকায়া মলে হোকারে পানি না মাগায় যে যে মাগায়ে তারে দে আপন ধন গর্ম বৃষ্টি সহে আনের করয়ে রখন উত্তম হইয়া বৈষ্ণব হবে নিরভিমান জীবে সমান দিবে জানে কৃষ্ণ অধিষ্ঠান এই মত হইয়া যে কৃষ্ণ নাম লয় শ্রীকৃষ্ণ চরণে তার প্রেম উপজয় কহিতে কহিতে প্রভুর দৈন্য পারিল শুদ্ধ ভক্তি কৃষ্ণ ঠায় মাগিতে লাগিল ও প্রেমের স্বভাব যাহা প্রেমের সম্বন্ধ সে মানে কৃষ্ণে মোর নাহি ভক্তি গন্ধ না ধনম না জনম না সুন্দরে কবিতাম বা জগদীশ কাময়ে মাম জন্মনি জন্মনীশ্বরে ভবতার ভক্তির হেতুকি ত্বয়ি ধন জন নাহি মাগো কবিতা সুন্দরী শুদ্ধ ভক্তি দেহ মোরে কৃষ্ণ কৃপা করি অতি ধন্য পুনঃ মাগে দাস্য ভক্তি দান আপনারে করে সংসারে জীব বিমান আই নন্দ তনুজ কিঙ্করম পতিতাং মাম বিষমে ভবাম বুধো কৃপয়া তব পার পঙ্কজা স্থিত ধূলি সদৃশম বিচিন্তয়া তোমার নিত্য দাস মই তোমা পাশারিয়া পড়িয়াছ ভবার নবে মায়াবদ্ধ হইয়া কৃপা করি কর মরে পদ ধূলি সম তোমার সেবা করো তোমার সেবান পুনঃ অতি উৎকণ্ঠ ধন্য হইল উর্গাম কৃষ্ণ ঠায় মাগে প্রেম নাম সংকীর্তন কৃষ্ণ ঠায় মাগে প্রেম নাম সংকীর্তন নয়নম গলরশুধারয়া वदनं गद्गदरुदाय गिरा पुलकर्णिचितं वपु कदा तव नाम ग्रहणे भविष्यति प्रेमधन प्रेमधन वीन व्यर्थ दरिद्र जीवन प्रेमधन वीन व्यर्थ दरिद्र जीवन दास करिबे तान मोरे देह प्रेम दान रसान्तरा वेशे हইল वियोग स्फुरन उद्वेग विषाद दैन्ये करे प्रलापन युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्रवृषायितं शून्यायितं जगत् सर्वं गोविन्द विरहेण मे उद्वेगे दिवस न যায় ক্ষণ যুগ হইল সম বর্ষার মেঘ প্রায় অশ্রু বর্ষে নয়ন গোবিন্দ বিরহে শূন্য হইল ত্রিভুবন গোবিন্দ বিরহে শূন্য হইল ত্রিভুবন তুষানালে পরে যেন না যায় জীবন ও তুষানালে পরে যেন না যায় জীবন কৃষ্ণ উদাসীন হইলা করিতে পরীক্ষণ সখী সব কহে কৃষ্ণ কর উপেক্ষণ এতে চিন্তিতে রাধার निर्मल हृदय स्वाभाविक प्रेमार स्वभाव करिल उदय हर्ष उत्कंठा दैन्य प्रदीविनय एत भाव एकठाय करिल उदय एत भावे राधार मान अस्थिर हইলা सखी गण आगे पढ़ी श्लोक जे पढ़िला সে ভাবে প্রভু সে শ্লোক উচ্চারিল Shlokayocharitte tadrup apane hoila. Ashleshava parartang pinashtumam adarshanan marmahatam karotuva yatha tathava vidadhatu lampato mat prananatastu sevana para. O mat prananatastu saevana para. Ami Krishna pada dasi te ho rasa sukha rashi alangiya kore atma sata. Alangiya kore atma sata. Kivana de darashan jare mora tanuman. Kivana de darashan jare mora tanuman. Tabu te ho mora prananata. Tabu te ho mora prananata. Tabu te ho mor prananata. Tabu te ho mor prananata. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jai Sachinandan Gaura Hare. Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hare. Gaura He, Gaura He, Gaura He. Oh Gaura He, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki Jai, Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Gagarajji. And he says, I was born on this auspicious day. Please give your blessings. Oh, wow. Jai, very auspicious. Akṣaya Tṛtīyā, amazing. All right. So, okay. So now we are continuing to read Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's commentary on verse 1 of Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka. Today we will be reading the 7 excellent results of chanting, of engaging in Śrī Krishna Sankirtan. Let's just read the translation for verse 1 though first. Let there be supreme victory for the chanting of the holy name of Śrī Krishna alone, which cleanses the mirror of the heart and completely extinguishes the blazing forest fire of material existence. Śrī Krishna Sankirtan diffuses the soothing moonrays of spiritual ecstasy, of bhav, that creates the living entity's that cause the living entity's white lotus of good fortune to bloom. The holy name is the life and soul of transcendental knowledge, which here is compared to a wife. It continuously expands the ocean of transcendental bliss, enabling one to taste complete nectar at every step. The holy name of Śrī Krishna thoroughly cleanses and cools the self, one's nature, and one's determination, as well as one's body, both internally and externally. Param vijayate Śrī Krishna Sankirtanam. Let there be supreme victory for the chanting of the holy name of Śrī Krishna. So yesterday we read all this from Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. He explains. I'm not going to do a recap, but let's just see. I'll just read a couple of parts though. Okay. So this conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam clearly establishes that only devotion unto the Supreme Lord is the topmost process of religion, bestowing ultimate good for the living entities. Karma, Gyan, and Yoga, the performance of austerities and other processes, do not bestow the ultimate good, and therefore they are not the topmost religious process. But this bhakti is extremely rare. It is obtainable only by transcendental faith. And two kinds of faith is mentioned: the faith that brings about engagement in the path of bhakti, inspired by the governing principles of the scriptures, and faith that brings about engagement in bhakti due to intense longing, due to lobh, arisen out of some extreme good fortune by hearing about the unparalleled sweetness of Bhagavan's pastimes. Even if one of these two kinds of faith arises, Shuddha Bhakti can develop only by continuous engagement in pure Harikatha in the form of hearing and chanting in the association of unadulterated pure devotees. If one does not regularly engage in such Harikatha in the association of saintly persons, his faith will gradually dwindle and then vanish altogether. And that's why Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord has said this famous verse, Satam Prasangam Mamavirya Samvido Bhavanti Ritkarna Rasayana Katha. Therefore, by faithfully hearing and chanting about the names, form, qualities, and pastimes of Bhagavan in the association of pure devotees, pure Sankirtan is possible. Otherwise, not. The glories of pure Sankirtan are the very first things spoken of in the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because the chanting of Krishna's holy names is the very identity of all auspiciousness. The word param has been used in the fourth line of verse 1. The word param here specifically, it means supreme, but here it specifically indicates pure Shri Krishna Sankirtan, which is obtained in progressive stages beginning from Shraddha to Sadhusanga and then Bhajana Kriya. So faith, then saintly, associating with saints, and then one begins to engage in the process, the limbs of bhakti, Bhajana Kriya. If one does not refer to Sri Hari Kirtan, if one does not refer to Hari Kirtan that is within the jurisdiction, this does not refer to Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas, that type of kirtan. In this Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka, the ocean of mercy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, appearing like a practitioner of the devotional path, is singing the glories of Sri Krishna Sankirtan and of the transcendental form and identity of Sri Krishna in order to enlighten the living entities with the truths of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan. In this commentary, the very same truths of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan are being discussed in summary fashion. And so then Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura explains about how Sri Krishna is the only absolute truth. There's no one other than him, and he is Nirvishesh and Savishesh. And he is the possessor of all potencies, Sarva Shaktiman. There are four features: his Swarup, his original form; his Tad Rup Vaibhav, his personal splendor, which includes his abode, eternal associates, and expansions, such as Lord Narayan; and the Jivas; and Pradhan, the material nature. And Srila Jiva Goswami compares these four features of the Lord to the four aspects of the sun. There's the sun itself. The Bengali says, first it says Surya, and then first it says the sun globe, and then it says the effulgence situated in the interior of the sun planet, then the atomic particles of sunlight emanating from the sun, and the reflected rays of the sun. Okay. So then Yeah, Krishna is Sarva Shaktiman. And then he goes through the different potencies, the Antaranga Shakti, the Tatashta Shakti, and Bahiranga Shakti. And then how Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, how everything in existence is both one with and separate from the Lord. It is so from the above discussion, it is proved that the living entities, the material world, and the Lord's personal splendor as regards his Vaikuntha existence are inconceivably one with and different from the original supreme spiritual form, the Lord's Bhagavat Swarup. The infinitesimal living entities, on account of being dependent on the Lord, are as separated parts and parcels. And this is found their non-distinction from the Lord. However, due to an absence of knowledge of the Supreme Lord, they are preoccupied with the material energy, and this lies their difference. Then he explains the process by which Hari Kirtan becomes successful for the living entity. And then come to the 7 excellent results of Sri Krishna Sankirtan. This is where we stopped yesterday. So first is Cheto Darpana Marjanam. This Sri Krishna Sankirtan cleanses the mirror of the heart. By the initial words, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, the truth concerning the identity of the living entity is disclosed. The conclusion of Sri Jiva Goswami regarding this subject is that the individual living entity is only one insignificant portion of the supreme absolute truth who is endowed with the conglomerate potency represented by the sum total of all jivas. Like the atomic particles of sunlight that have emerged from the accumulated effulgence within the sun, the living entities are infinitesimal particles of spirit emanated from the absolute truth who is always situated in his intrinsic form and who is the personification of undivided transcendental ras. Sri Baladeva Vibhushan, who wrote a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra known as Śrī Govindabhāṣya, has also analyzed the Supreme Lord as Vibhu Chaitanya, the all-pervading consciousness, and the living entity as Anu Chaitanya, infinitesimal consciousness. Unlimited transcendental qualities that bestow all good fortune eternally exist in the Supreme Lord. In him, pure ego exists both as absolute knowledge and as the knower. Ego is here defined as the sense of I-ness. Similarly, the jiva also has transcendental qualities in minute quantity and a pure ego that manifests both as knowledge and as the knower. This is not contrary to logic, because qualities such as heat and light that can be seen in the sun are also observed in the particles of sunlight. Amongst the Lord and the living entities, the Lord is one, independent, and the embodiment of all potencies. He enters into material nature and regulates it. He creates the material world and maintains it. He is the concentrated form of spiritual bliss, being eternally situated in his own intrinsic form and being the bestower of the ecstatic mellows of divine love, prem ras, through the medium of bhakti. So being situated in his own intrinsic form and being the knower of ecstatic mellows of divine love, of prem ras, through the medium of bhakti, he causes it to be tasted by others. But the living entities are innumerable. They are situated in many conditions of life, both conditioned and liberated. When their vision is averted from the Lord, they become bound by material nature. When their attention is turned towards the Lord, the covering of Maya, which covers the pure identity and qualities of the jiva, is withdrawn. Thereafter, they directly perceive their own spiritual form. From this conclusion, it is clear that the jivas are particles of spiritual consciousness. They have a spiritual identity that consists of pure ego, pure consciousness, and a spiritual body. When their vision is averted from the Lord and engrossed in illusory material enjoyment, their pure ego and pure consciousness become contaminated with the filth of ignorance. Here the heart has been compared to a mirror. Just as one's face cannot be seen in a dirty mirror covered by dust, The living entity cannot see his actual form in the heart that is contaminated by the filth of ignorance. When the practice of bhakti, predominated by the Hladini potency of the Lord, begins, one engages in the process of shravanam, hearing. Thereafter, Shri Krishna Sankirtan automatically appears and thoroughly cleanses the filth of ignorance. At that time, the jiva's pure consciousness manifests, and he becomes situated in his pure ego. From this, he begins to see factually in the mirror of his pure consciousness the following 5 truths. Okay, so when Krishna Sankirtan appears and cleanses the filth of ignorance, then the jiva begins to see in the mirror of his pure consciousness these following 5 truths. 1. Ishwar, the Supreme Lord. 2. The jivas, the living entities. 3. Prakriti, material nature. 4. Kala, time. And karma, activities. When the mirror of the heart is completely cleansed and purified, the vision of one's own constitutional form, one's swarup, and consequently his constitutional occupation, his swadharma, is made possible. The constitutional occupation of the living entity is to engage in the service of Bhagavan. And the word swarup doesn't just mean form, it means one's nature. Swarup can also mean form, but it also refers to one's nature. Okay, so that is Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's explanation of Cetodapanamarjanam. And now, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Shri Krishna Sankirtan extinguishes the forest fire of material existence. On Haribol Rohini Nandan Prabhu. Okay. By engaging steadily in the service of Bhagavan, the materialistic demeanor is transformed into the inclination for rendering service to Lord Krishna. The materialistic demeanor is transformed into the inclination for rendering service to Sri Krishna. The purport of the word bhava, or mundane existence, is that the jiva has to take birth in this material world again and again. Repeated birth and death is compared to a great forest fire, a maha davagni. This blazing forest fire cannot be extinguished by any means other than Shri Krishna Sankirtan. The question may be raised here that upon attainment of the knowledge of one's constitutional duty, does one cease to chant the holy name? The answer is that this never happens. Hari Sankirtan is the eternal occupation of the living entity. The phrase Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam has been used in a qualifying sense to point out that the holy name is eternally the natural and characteristic function of the living entity. So now we come to Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. This Shri Krishna Sankirtan diffuses the moon rays of Bhav Bhakti for the highest good of the living entity. For the living entities ensnared by Maya, material enjoyment alone is desirable, and it is on this account that they have to rotate in the cycle of repeated birth and death in this material world, suffering the threefold miseries. In complete opposition to this, aversion towards Maya and constant engagement in the service of Sri Krishna is the highest achievement. It's Shreya. This highest achievement is compared to the white water lotus. Just as the soothing rays of the moon cause the white lotus to blossom, Shri Krishna Sankirtan, diffusing the moon rays of Bhav Bhakti, causes the white lotus of good fortune to bloom for the living entities. According to the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam 11.3.31, Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. Bhakti arises from bhakti. So according to this statement from Srimad Bhagavatam, one must first continuously engage in the process of sadhan bhakti through hearing, chanting, and so on. At this stage, one's devotion is said to be an abhas, or semblance of real bhakti. By such practice, unalloyed devotion makes its appearance in the heart of the faithful living entity. Here, Shri Krishna Sankirtan has been compared with the moon. Just as the nectarian light emitted from the moon causes the white lotus to bloom, Shri Krishna Sankirtan causes ecstatic emotion, bhav, which is predominated by the Hladini potency, to appear within the hearts of the living entities. All kinds of benedictions arise as a consequence of this. Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. A question may be raised here. When will those who have already attained unalloyed devotion obtain their pure spiritual forms? In reply to this question, Sri Sachinandan Gaurachandra says, Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. Sankirtana is a life of transcendental knowledge. In reality, Bhagavan has but one potency. Its two functions are vidya, knowledge, and avidya, ignorance. The Lord's internal potency, known as Yogamaya Swarup Shakti, is called vidya. The external potency, or Mahamaya, which is responsible for the creation of the material world and which covers the original spiritual form of the living entity and the qualities associated with that form, is called avidya. When unalloyed devotion arises in the heart of the sadhak by continual practice of hearing and chanting, Bhakti Devi, who dispels all desires other than that for the service of the Lord, removes this avidya. By the function of the knowledge potency, the vidya vritti, Bhakti Devi destroys the gross and subtle bodies of the living entity. Simultaneously, Bhakti Devi manifests the original pure spiritual form of the jiva, to the extent that one receives the purely spiritual form of a... Wait, let me reread that. Simultaneously, so Bhakti Devi destroys the gross and subtle bodies of the living entity, and simultaneously, Bhakti Devi manifests the original pure spiritual form of the jiva, to the extent that one receives the purely spiritual form of a gopi, if by qualification one is fit to taste madhurya ras, the mellow of amorous love. And then there's a note from the editors here. One may attain a form in any of the 5 transcendental relationships of Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, or Madhurya in accordance with one's eligibility, or in other words, in accordance with the Sthāyi Bhav, one's eternal and dominant devotional sentiment. Thus it is proved that Sri Krishna Kirtan is the life of all transcendental knowledge that has been compared to a vadhu. Krishna Kirtan is a life of all transcendental knowledge, that knowledge which has been compared to as a vadhu, a wife or consort. The internal potencies being compared to Sri Krishna's consort is especially notable in context of the description of his sportive amorous pastimes known as Lila Vilas. How long is my Gurudev's comment on this? Okay, so now here's a comment from my Śrīla Gurudev. Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. Oops. Bhakti is a function of the Lord's internal potency, Swarup Shakti. Shuddha Sattva is the essence of the combination of the Hladini and Samvit aspects of the internal potency. When Shuddha Sattva is obtained, Bhakti is also present. By executing the various practices of sadhan bhakti, such as hearing, chanting, and so on, Shuddha Sattva arises in the heart. Shuddha Sattva is eternally existing in the hearts of the Lord's eternal associates. By performing bhakti under their guidance, Shuddha Sattva manifests in the heart. This Shuddha Sattva is also known as a rati, or bhav. By further execution of bhakti in the stage of rati, bhav bhakti is transformed into prema bhakti. The essence of prema bhakti is bhav, not to be confused with bhav bhakti, but rather a stage that comes from in the systematic development of prem, that is rati, sneha, man, pranay, rag, anurag, bhav, and then mahabhav. So the essence of prem bhakti is bhav, and the essence of bhav is mahabhav. This mahabhav is the very form of Srimati Radhika, Mahabhav Swarupini Srimati Radha Thakurani. So, or otherwise stated, Srimati Radhika is the embodiment of Mahabhav. Therefore, where Mahabhav is present, the form of Radhika is present. Srimati Radhika is eternally the Hladini aspect of Sri Krishna's internal potency. Sri Krishna is the possessor of potency, and Srimati Radhika is his potency. Consequently, they are one in their identity. For the purpose of sportive transcendental pastimes, Lila Vilas, they manifest as two personalities. Srimati Radhika further manifests as all the gopis. Bhakti, as the essential function of the internal potency, is always present within the hearts of the gopis. In particular, Srimati Radhika is the personification of the Sarup Shakti, and consequently, the personification of Bhakti. Therefore, the Sarup Shakti, as well as Bhakti, has been compared to the beloved consort of Sri Krishna. Okay, so that is the end of the comment by my Srila Gurudev. And now back to Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura. 5. Anandam Buddhivardhanam. That means Sri Krishna Sankirtan increases the ocean of bliss. When the gross and subtle bodies of the living entity have been completely destroyed, his infinitesimal nature becomes evident. At that time, on account of the jiva's inherent nature being infinitesimal, it may be assumed that his constitutional happiness is also infinitesimal. In order to dispel this apprehension, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informs us that the holy name is an ever-increasing ocean of bliss, Anandam Buddhivardhanam. In other words, Sri Krishna Sankirtan, performed in a liberated condition upon the living entity's attainment of his pure spiritual form, unlimitedly expands the inherent transcendental pleasure of the living entity by virtue of the Hladini potency. Then, Pratipadam Purnamrita Svadanam. Sri Krishna Sankirtan enables one to taste complete nectar at every step. In that condition, the jiva, being eternally situated in one of the transcendental rasas of Dasya, Sakhya, Vatsalya, or Madhurya, relishes complete nectar at every step by virtue of the ever-increasing freshness of his attachment to Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna has 4 unique qualities. 1. Lila Madhurya. He is a surging ocean of astonishing pastimes, out of which the Ras Lila is supremely captivating. And 2, Krishna, he has Prema Madhurya. He is surrounded by devotees who possess incomparably sweet, loving sentiments that develop up to the stage of Mahabhav. And 3, Krishna has Venu Madhurya. The sweet and mellow sound of his flute attracts the minds of everyone within the 3 worlds. And lastly, number 4, Rup Madhurya. His extraordinary beauty astonishes all moving and non-moving entities. These 4 unique qualities of Bhagavan Sri Krishna are eternally fresh. Although the jivas who have awakened their love for Sri Krishna continuously drink these aspects of the Lord's sweetness, they remain unsatiated and hanker for more. Therefore, they unceasingly drink that sweetness in endlessly new varieties. Wow, beautiful. They unceasingly drink that sweetness in endlessly new varieties. And now the last result of chanting Shri Krishna Nam Sankirtan means Prema Ananda. This is Sarvatma Snapanam. Prema Ananda is completely pure. A doubt may be raised here. The longing or endeavor for one's own enjoyment is opposed to purely spiritual love, Vishuddha Prem, wanting one's own enjoyment. When a living entity is relishing the ever-fresh bliss of Prem, he is also enjoying. How can this condition be called Nirmala Premananda, the untainted spiritual bliss of divine love? As if to dispel this doubt, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the crest jewel of all sannyasis, has used the qualifying statement Sarvatma Snapanam, Sri Krishna Sankirtan. Sri Krishna Sankirtan thoroughly bathes the living entity both internally and externally, leaving him very clean and cool. In the condition of Prem, Krishna's blissful feelings are completely pure. In other words, because the living entity in the status of prem gives unadulterated ecstatic pleasure to Sri Krishna, he is devoid of any selfish motives for personal enjoyment. Obtaining one's spiritual form, the jiva becomes a maidservant of Srimati Radhika, who is the embodiment of the Hladini potency, and who is always absorbed in the ecstasy of Mahabhav. The living entity thus tastes unlimited spiritual bliss in connection with the love sports, the prem vilas of the divine couple. Therefore, there is no possibility of his having even the faintest trace of material desire. There's no calm at all, not even the slightest trace of calm, which is completely opposed to the nature of prem. The two words Ravatma, Snapanam have been used to indicate supreme purity, completely devoid of the false personal sayujya mukti and self-sense enjoyment. Shri Krishna Sankirtan is thus decorated with 7 transcendental qualities. It is the embodiment, bliss, and knowledge. Shri Krishna Sankirtan be thoroughly victorious. Astonishing pastime of Shish. It's a very short comment here. Chanting the holy name for appearance within the heart of this form, transcendental qualities, pastimes, gopas, and gopis all become manifest. All of these within his heart. He also perceives the amorous sports of the Lord. In the end, he gives up this material body, and obtaining his eternal form, he enters into the pastimes of the Lord. It is therefore said that the holy name that reveals the love sports, the prem vilas of Shishi Radha Krishna, should be especially glorified. That's the end of my Gurudev's comment. And then now it comes the Chaitanya Charitamrita verses, which we sang at the beginning. Nam Sankirtana hoite sarvanatanash, sarva shubhadoy Krishna premier ulas, Sankirtana hoite pap sangsara nashan, chitta shuddhi sarva bhakti sadhan udgam, Krishna premurgan prema mrita asvadan, Krishna prapti sevam mrita samudre majan. And then the first song of Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka. But we are going to end here. And now we're going to read about Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. And Hare Krishna Shasharamaji. There you go. All right, so Jai Shri Krishna Sankirtan ki Jai. Jai Śrī Śikṣāṣṭaka ki Jai. Jai Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Brahmanande Hari Hari Gaur. Okay, I guess I'll start with my Gurudev's Harikatha, and then we can look at Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura's Katha. In celebration of Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. Okay, so this is translated from the Sri Bhagavat Patrika, Year 6, 1961, Issue 12, by Raise of the Harmonist team. I'm just... Wow, this is an old class, 1961, before Śrīla Prabhupada even went to the West. Okay, I'm just going to paste it here. One second, let me just... Oh, and if I see it's 8 o'clock now, so if anybody needs to go, Dandavat Pranams, thank you so much for joining. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Yeah, I'm gonna go over time. Well, actually, maybe I should I should just end, and then this will be the after program like we did the other days. I like that system, so then nobody feels any pressure to stay. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, oh Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. जय श्री सच्चिनंदन गौर हरि की जय, श्री श्री राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जय, जय श्री गुरुदेव की जय, जय श्री परम गुरुदेव की जय, जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री रूपानु गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय, जय श्री हरि नाम, जय श्री स्वपार्षद श्री गौर नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय, श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीगान की जय, श्री गिरिराज महाराज की जय, श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय, Jai, the son, Śrīla Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura ki jai, his Sanmodana-bhāṣya ki jai. And then the Vivriti of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. We're going to read that tomorrow. Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Jai, let's see all the titis today. Shri Jagannath Devar Chandanyatra ki jai, the first day of Satya Yuga ki jai, the opening of the doors of the Bhadri Narayan temple ki jai, Shri Gaurivaranta Samiti's inauguration day in 1941 ki jai, Shri Parshuram Jayanti ki jai, Shri Akṣaya Tṛtīyā ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, and I think it's also appearance day or disappearance day of, what's this, Bhakti Vaibhav Madhav Maharaj, never heard of him. And there's one other person. One minute. Oh, Bhakti, Shishimad Bhakti Soda Ashram Goswami Maharaj ki jai. All the associates of Jagat Guru Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All right. Dandavat pranams. Nari Hari Prabhu, Bhavatarani Mataji, Chattamaya Mataji, Sarveshwari Mataji, Archana Mataji, Guru Nishya Prabhu, Nitai Mukesh ji, Anadi Krishna Prabhu, and Ganga Mataji, Gargaraj ji, Vidyalala Sadidi, Mahi Bharat Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams Prabhu, and Rohini Nandan Prabhu, Shah Sharma ji, Raseshwari Mataji, Vidyalala Sadidi, and Vidyalala Sadidi said it's also the appearance of Lord Nara Narayan. Jai Nara Narayan ki Jai. Arjuna Krishna ki Jai. Okay, very neat. I didn't know that. All right. Thank you everybody for joining. If anybody wants to stay longer, I'm going to read now about Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. And yeah, as I mentioned, tomorrow we're going to read the commentary of Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada and maybe some commentaries from our other acharyas. All right. So what we're reading now was spoken by my Gurudev in 1961. All right. So this appeared in the Bhagavat Patrika, which Śrīla Prabhupada wrote many articles for also. Okay, on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā, 18 April 1961, Śrīla Gurudev, Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, delivered a speech at the Maharashtra Mandal in Mathura. Notes were made of his talk, later published in Sri Bhagavat Patrika, Year 6, Issue 12, under Śrīla Gurudev's auspices. The following are excerpts from that talk. On 18 April 1961, at Sri Gaurivaranta Samiti's primary preaching center in this area, Sri Keshavji Gaudiya Math Mathura, Akṣaya Tṛtīyā was celebrated with great pomp. It was on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā that the Samiti was founded. And Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada is one of the co-signers, right, or co-founders of Gauri Vedanta Samiti. On this occasion, at the special invitation of the Maharashtra Mandal of Mathura, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, editor of Śrī Bhagavad Patrika, arrived there with the Mat Brahmacharis. Following Sankirtan by the Mat's Kirtan troupe, Swamiji, Srila Gurudev, gave a pithy and inspiring speech regarding Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. He related several reasons why Akṣaya Tṛtīyā is such a glorious occasion. So now this is what he spoke, or excerpts from what he spoke. It is on this very day that Bhagavan reinitiates Satya Yuga after destroying the atheists, the so-called Buddhists in his incarnation as Kalki. According to certain compilers of scripture, Treta Yuga also begins on this auspicious day. This is the very first day that yajna, that sacred fire sacrifice, as propounded by the three Vedas, was commenced. On this day, Bhagavan's Shaktavesh avatar, his empowered incarnation Parshuram, also made his auspicious appearance. 21 times he eradicated the societies of those inimical to Bhagavan and his bhaktas from the earth, so as to establish a dharmic, a spiritually enlightened society. Today also is the auspicious day that the emperor of Bharat, of ancient India, Bhagirat, through his relentless worship, pleased Bhagavati Bhagirati, Gangaji, who later made her appearance in Bharat Bhumi, thus making this land supremely pure. Today is the day that Lord Shishi Badri Narayan's temple door reopens in the Himalayas. And it is also the day in Sri Puridham that Sri Krishna's Chandan Yatra festival is celebrated with grand ceremony. Therefore, from looking at the Puranas and Itihasas, the ancient histories, we learn that today is a day of spiritual revolution. Today is the day this world's irreligious, atheistic, corrupt, and downright materialistic society was uprooted, and in its place, the foundation of a religious, theistic, and spiritual society was cast. An utterly materialistic society causes the destruction of the world, whereas a religious society with firm faith in Bhagavan is the cornerstone of peace in this world. The revered editor of Śrī Bhagavad Patrika then began to explain how most persons, enamored with Western culture, believe that Russia and America have ushered the world into a divine new era by sending mankind into outer space. As a result, today's society is progressing towards the ultimate step of advancements. That's what people think. So, and my Gurudev continues, but I ask this. Although there is no doubt that superbly miraculous advancements are occurring in science, have they solved the problem of there being no world peace? Has the issue of providing food for the hungry not become worse than before? Has the shortage of food and clothing been solved? Is it even in the process of being solved? Has the problem of disease become less than before? Or is it not increasing and assuming more terrible forms? Are this world's complex problems of corruption, immorality, suicide, cheating, rings, theft, provincialism, linguistic prejudice, racism, futile civil disobedience, and protests, etc., not confronting us in newer and newer ways? Are these problems not becoming more and more complex day by day? Have the problems arising from the tragic and shameful events in places like the Congo, Tibet, Japan, Korea, and I don't know how you say this, Suez, not disgraced those who have been boasting of progress in the world? Is the ongoing violence and arbitrary torture of the birds and beasts, the world's innocent life forms, an example of equality and universal love in this so-called scientific age? Shame on this false and barbaric materialistic progress and its heroes. The fact of the matter is that today's materialistic scientists can say whatever they like, but as their actions show, they regard the body made of 5 elements as I, the self, and they undertake painstaking toil to make this temporary body immortal and supply it with as much happiness as possible. They do not accept the birds and beasts as rightful inhabitants of the world. They regard them merely as food and sport for humans. The philosophers, scholars, and sages of ancient India, though fully capable of technological advancement, deliberately imposed a firm restraint on material progress. Infinitesimal consciousness located within the body, the soul, which is part and parcel of the sum total of consciousness, Ishvar, God. Our Indian philosophers were scientists acquainted with the truth of the soul. They focused all their attention on how the infinitesimal soul, who for some reason turned away from Bhagavan and became entrapped in a cycle of repeated birth and death in the ocean of material existence, thus incurring frightful sorrow and suffering, might forever escape this predicament and attain eternal happiness and peace. At the same time, they were not opposed to activities that keep this human body happy and healthy, which is an indispensable aid for attaining spiritual knowledge. They were also very advanced in worldly science. Many millions of years before today, Ravan, Meghanad, and others roamed everywhere, up and down throughout this universe, without the help of any vehicle, airplane, or rocket. Agastya Muni drank up all the water in the 7 oceans in a single handful. Maharshi Vedavyas could generate children just by his vision. Shukracharya repeatedly revived the asuras by the power of mantra when they were killed in battle. Present-day science is nothing in front of the science of so many millions of years past. Then again, those people, the philosophers, scholars, and sages of ancient India, kept material sciences in check. That is why, in ancient culture, they who wanted to suppress the material interest and promote increasing worldly prosperity, such as Ravan, Meghanad, Hiranyakashipu, Mayadanava, and others, they are referred to as asuras, or as demons. Our ancestors knew well that if advancement were only material, devoid of faith in the Lord and spiritual values, then spiritual interests would certainly be neglected. With that, destruction would be inevitable. They therefore esteemed simple living and high thinking, and endeavored to deliver every living entity from the cycle of birth and death and establish them in the true eternal service of Bhagavan. If we want to save this world from destruction, then on this sanctified day, in a united way, we must dispose of the present state of society which is disinclined towards Bhagavan. We must pledge to reestablish a religious society that is rooted in the spiritual science of our ancient culture. Only then will it be possible for the entire world to attain true peace and true happiness. That was translated from Śrī Bhagavad Patrika, Year 6, 1961, Issue 12, by Rays of the Harmonist Team. What time is it? 8:10. Okay, so now let's see what's next. It's another class for my Gurudev on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. This is a class that I gave in 2000. Okay. Okay, so this is a class that Gurudev gave on May 6th in year 2000 in Hawaii. Surely Nari Hari Prabhu and Bhavatarani Mataji were there for this class. So he says, today is a very auspicious day, Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. We will observe it tomorrow, however, because today there are 3 titis, there are 3 titis touching one day. Today, the door of Badri Narayan will be open, and therefore a festival will be observed in Puri with Lord Jagannath. Chandan Yatra will also begin on this auspicious day. Especially, anyone who will begin anything on this day, that endeavor will be successful. Akshay means not perishable. If you are sincerely taking Diksha initiation today, your bhakti will be very successful. Today, on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā, the universe was created by Brahma. The universe took its shape today. So today is the first day of creation. Also, Brahma created barley, which is like a medicine, and which is the root of all the corn and other foodstuffs. Barley is given today to Krishna. Today is the birthday of our Gaudiya Vedanta Society, Samiti. On this day, Sri Abhay Charan Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj became one of the founding members of Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. And one devotee says, not many devotees realize this. And Brajanath Prabhu says, the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti was founded by Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Keshav Goswami Maharaj in 1941. Śrīla Prabhupada was present there. And then my Gurudev says, he was one of the founding members. Krishna consciousness and Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti are the same thing. This Krishna consciousness movement is actually coming from Brahma, Narad, Vyas, and Shukadev Goswami, who are all members of ISKCON. To serve Krishna is ISKCON. Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj is not the establisher of ISKCON, but the reorganizer. He himself has said this. And then Shamarani Mataji, I think, gives a note where Śrīla Prabhupada is saying that. All right, now let's read about Parshuram Jayanti. Let's see how long this is. This is a little bit too long. I want to end kind of soon. So maybe I just want to see what Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj says about Akṣaya Tṛtīyā and Chandan Yatra. But Jai Parshuram Ki Jai. Yeah, this is interesting. This looks interesting. Okay. Oh, and on my website, Vine of Devotion, I wrote a post yesterday with just some ideas of some things that you could start today on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. You can check it out. Okay, so this is a class that Śrīla Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj gave on April 25th, 2013 and April 4th, 2015. Today is Akṣaya Tṛtīyā, a very special tithi. It marks the beginning of Satya Yuga. In other words, Bhagavan created the universe on this tithi. Early memories of Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. In my Purva Ashram, my life before joining the Math, there were 3 very beautiful stone temples where I stayed, dedicated to the service of shaligrams. There were no deities in those temples, only shaligrams. From the first day of Vaishak month, which is 4 days prior to Akṣaya Tṛtīyā, the shaligrams used to be placed underneath a constant stream of water. How? A brass vessel with a tiny hole was placed above the shaligrams and arranged in such a way that the water would fall directly onto the shaligrams, drop by drop, all through the day. This water, this charnamrita, would eventually collect in a big pot, which had a 25 to 30 liter capacity, and then placed below, and would then be mixed with camphor and distributed to everyone in the evening. Bale fruits mixed with milk, paneer, and jaggery, not sugar, would be distributed as prasad, along with roasted or fried chickpeas. And from today, the first day of Chandan Yatra, there used to be special prasad. Varieties of laddus made from chickpeas, groundnuts, coconuts, and milk solids, koa, would be prepared, offered to Bhagavan, and then distributed. It is a scriptural injunction to offer bhog prepared from jau sattu, that's roasted barley flour, to Bhagavan on this day. This sattu was mixed with milk and jaggery and made into balls, then offered and distributed in leaf cups to whoever came for darshan. Okay, so now the general conception of Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. People with faith in karma kanda, they offer sattu made from jau, from barley, as bhog to Bhagavan. There's also a custom to offer water in charity, jaldhan, on this tithi. I witnessed this around Bengal, and Kolkata, Vrindavan, and even Hyderabad. Especially the merchant community arranges for big earthen pots full of water to offer water to any passerby. And they also donate earthen pots along with a ladle for serving water and a cloth to filter it. In Bengal, they offer a water pot and a fan in the temple. On this Tithi, even the Adivasis, even the tribal community, who are not so well versed in the scriptures, offer mangoes to Bhagavan first, and only then consume them. Even though mangoes may be widely available before this Tithi, they will not consume them, being aware of the glories of this Tithi. The belief of the general masses is that whatever auspicious ritualistic activities one performs on this Tithi bears inexhaustible fruit. By Vedic standards, any activity is to be performed with the consideration of an appropriate time in order to yield the best result. Hence, by referring to an almanac, an auspicious time is identified to perform the activity, because there are also inauspicious times during the day. However, on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā, no such thing is applicable, because the entire day is auspicious. Now, is the fruit of activities done on this day everlasting? So then Madhav Prabhu, he asks, what does it mean when they say anything done on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā becomes inexhaustible or everlasting? Do activities performed by fruit of workers, karmis, impersonalists, jnanis, and pseudo-devotees become inexhaustible? Then Śrīla Bhaktivinoda Ṭhākura says, if one seeks wealth and performs charity on this Tithi with this motivation, one will never experience any deficiency of wealth in his whole life. His wealth will become inexhaustible. But it does not mean that he will attain Vaikuntha. With respect to the example above, the term Akshay implies that such an individual will never experience any deficit of wealth in this life. But in reality, is there anything eternal or everlasting in this material world? In other words, since our lifespans are short, we cannot possibly experience all the results of our actions in one lifetime. And for this reason, many believe that the fruits they receive as a result of performing pious activities on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā is inexhaustible. But nothing in this material world is factually everlasting. One may think that he'll eternally remain wealthy due to the notion that anyone who performs charity on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā accrues everlasting benefit. However, since nothing in this material world is eternal, the word Akshay too in regards to anything material can't be taken as eternal or everlasting in the ultimate sense. Bhagavan is eternal, and hence only any activity performed in connection to him, any bhakti, is truly eternal. Acts of charity, austerity, or penance performed without any connection to Bhagavan are simply temporary in themselves and bear only temporary results. So Madhav Prabhu says, so in reality, it is not everlasting. Then Srila Maharaj, no. And that is applicable to the jnanis and yogis as well. Nowhere has it been mentioned that they will attain Hari Bhakti, Goloka, or Vaikuntha by performing pious activities on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā. So now, Akṣaya Tṛtīyā for devotees. Then Madhav Prabhu asks, what should a devotee do on this Tithi? And Srila Maharaj, a devotee should do Hari Bhakti, any activity that is pleasing to Hari, Guru, and Vaishnavas. Lokiki Vaidiki Vapi Ya Kriya Kriyate Mune Hari Sevanukulaiva Sa Karya Bhaktamichata. That's from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-200. A devotee may act as an ordinary human being or as a strict follower of Vedic injunctions. In either case, everything he does is favorable for the advancement of devotional service because he is in Krishna consciousness. Any activity which is favorable for Hari Seva is called bhakti. And what does one achieve by performing bhakti? By performing bhakti, one achieves the fruit of bhakti. That is, one attains Bhagavan. It has been said in Srimad Bhagavatam 11:14-20. Na sadhayati mam yogo, na sankyam dharma uddhava, na swadhyayas tapastyago, yatha bhaktir mamorjita. My dear Uddhav, the unalloyed devotional service rendered to me by my devotees brings me under their control. I cannot thus be controlled by those engaged in mystic yoga, Sankhya philosophy, pious work, Vedic study, austerity, or renunciation. Only by performing bhakti, one will get bhakti. Nowhere is it mentioned that bhakti can be attained as an outcome of performing other activities unrelated to bhakti. Bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. Okay, then Chandanyatra. Then Madhav Prabhu asks, today is Chandanyatra. This festival of Chandan Yatra has been celebrated since Satya Yuga for Lord Jagannath, and then Srila Maharaj says, the actual context is that Bhagavan invents an excuse to give service to his devotees. What is the excuse? Due to severe summer heat. Oh, he says, due to severe summer heat, my body is burning. So please smear me with sandalwood paste. So Bhagavan says, then Bhagavan only accepts service from his devotees, not from just anyone. He told his devotee Indradumna Maharaj that starting from this titi, smear chandan on my body for 21 days. This is the reason why Chandan Yatra is celebrated in Puri. In another instance, once Krishna appeared to his devotee Madhavendra Puri in a dream and told him how his previous servitor had fled after hiding him in a grove, fearing an attack from the Yavanas. Ashful. Um, the Lord could have also asked so many wealthy people for this seva. Instead, he chose Madhavendra Puri, who didn't possess a fixed place of residence. Why? It was because of Madhavendra Puri's unprecedented love for Gopal. When Gopal instructed Madhavendra Puri to fetch Malaya Chandan, he never thought, how can I perform this service in my old age? Even my vision and ability to walk is impaired. Instead, upon receiving the order, Madhavendra Puri left immediately without a second thought. As a rule, sannyasis are prohibited from meeting any king. Yet for the service of Bhagavan, he met the king and begged 1 1/4 mound of chandan and 20 tola of camphor from him. A mound is a unit of weight in India varying greatly according to locality, approximately 11 to 37 kilograms. So I wanted 1 1/4 mound. So then he then brought the chandan with him, and on the way back to Vrindavan, Gopal instructed him to smear the chandan on Gopinath's body in Remuna itself, assuring him that this would in turn make his body feel cool. So Madhavendra Puri arranged to smear the chandan on Gopinath's body, and after 21 days, the supply was exhausted. He left his body there in Remuna, where his samadhi can still be found. Jai Shri Chandan Yatra ki Jai, Shri Jagannath Dev ki Jai, Shri Gopal Dev ki Jai, Shri Kir Chora Gopinath ki Jai, Shri Madhavendra Puri Par ki Jai. Jai Shri Nitai Gaur, Shri Akṣaya Tṛtīyā ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Jai Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakraju ki Jai. All right, so that is our program for today. Thanks for staying all the way till the end. I'll see you all tomorrow. Haribol. I'm just looking at the calendar. What's coming up? Okay. Oops. 1 second. Day, month. Interesting. So it's going to be the appearance day of Shankaracharya, Bhaktivilas Gavastaneni Maharaj. Actually, I have it written down in here. I'm starting a new notebook today. Yeah. So in this month of May is Janu Saptami will be coming up in a few days. And then Janava Devi's appearance day, Sita Devi's appearance day, and Madhu Pandit's disappearance day. And then Bhakti Sarvasa Govinda Maharaj's appearance day. And then in the middle of the month, well, actually on the 11th of May, is Nrsimha Chaturdashi. That's 11 days from now, right? We're at the end of the month already. And then the day after Nrsimha Chaturdashi is the appearance day of Madhavendra Puri, who we just read about, Srinivasacharya, and also the disappearance day of Parameshwari Thakur. And then there's not so much more in this month. Then the end of Keshav Vrat's in the middle of the month, 15th. Then the disappearance day of Ramananda Rai, and appearance day of Vrindavan Das Thakur. That's all in this month. All right, cool. Jai Shri Radhe. Thanks for staying all the way to the end. And as I mentioned, if anybody wants some ideas of things to start on Akṣaya Tṛtīyā, I made a post on my website, fineofdevotion.com. It's not so devotional. It's like more like productivity, self-help kind of stuff. It's not really, directly bhakti or anything like that. But
anyhow, if anybody's interested in this kind of stuff, you can find something I wrote, something I'm starting today. And I have 2 groups if anybody wants to, for accountability, if anybody wants to start anything. Right here, there's the Google group and the WhatsApp group called Nurturing the Seed. You could read more about it here. All right. Haribol, everybody. Thanks for staying to the end. See you tomorrow. Haribol. Wait, I forgot to look at the comments. Okay. Thanks, Vidya Sariti. Haribol.